Okay, Wildcats, today we're looking at Tuesday, September 4th, Inverse Functions Part 1, and that's going to be on page 6 in your journal. So if you would, update your table of contents. Right now, your table of contents are updated. Let's take a look at today. Now, this first page, and actually, I'm sorry, both pages are going to go in your journal on page 6. Okay, so both pages are going to go in your journal on page 6. Okay, all right, so first things first, to find the inverse of a function, just swap the x and f of x. Okay. Now, when doing inverses, it's useful to do different colors. So we're going to do f of x in yellow. You can use two. I don't care what colors you use, but I recommend using two different colors. And we're going to do the inverse in blue. Okay. Now, when given a table, it's really simple to do the inverse. You swap the x and f of x. So the x's were 0, 1, 2, 3. Now the f of x is 0, 1, 2, 3. And now the f of x become the x's, so 0, 1, 4, 9. Okay, so now let's graph both of them. Let's start with f of x. So 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, if they're inverses, they're going to reflect over the f of x line. Okay, so we need to graph that. F of x equals x. It's an easy line to graph because the points are 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, so on. So let's graph that. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, 10, 10. So if we did this correctly, this should reflect over the f of x equals x line. Okay? So now let's graph the inverse. So 0, 0, 1, 1, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3. You can see here that they reflect over the f of x equals x line, so we've done the inverse correctly. Let's try to unfuzzy it there. All right, next thing. The domain of the function becomes the range of its inverse, and the range of the function becomes the domain of its inverse, possibly with restrictions. All right, next thing. State whether each pair of the functions are inverses. Now, first things first, I'm going to put them in different colors so they're easier to see. Now, if they're inverses, they'll reflect over the f of x equals x line. So let's graph that. That's 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, so on. All right, you can see here that they reflect over the f of x equals x line, so these are inverses. Let's just draw a line here to try to keep our work a little organized. All right, so again, I'm going to put some color to them so it's easier to see. Now, if they're inverses, they're going to reflect over the f of x equals x line. So let's graph that. So 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6. All right, you can see here that these do not reflect over the f of x equals x line, so they're not inverses. All right, let's look at the last one. And again, if they're inverses, they're going to reflect over the f of x equals x line. So let's graph that. So 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6. You can see here that they do not reflect over the f of x line. They, in fact, reflect over the x-axis, so they're not inverses. All right, let's take a look at the next. Now it says state whether each pair of functions are inverses. So again, I'm going to do f of x in yellow. And then, in this case, it's g of x in blue. All right, now the key with tables is really simple. If it inverses, the x and f of x swap. So if this is an inverse, then in g of x, we should see 0, 3, 5, 9. We don't, so they're not inverses. Again, let's just draw a line here to try to keep the work a little organized. All right, so again, if they're inverses, the x should become the g of x. So let's see, 5, 9, 10, 15, 5. So far, okay. And then the f of x should become x. They do. So these are inverses. All right, now let's look at here. G of x should become 168. It doesn't, so they're not inverses. All right, let's look at the next note page. And again, both pages are going to go in your journal, okay, on page 6. All right, now steps to find the inverse of a function algebraically. Step 1, switch x and y in the equation. Remember, y is f of x in this case. Step 2, solve for y. Now, before we work these problems, what I recommend doing is adding lines to your page. Now, I'm going to try to put these before the video. I forgot, but let's just add them now and finish up the video. Yeah, I'm just going through all the problems and adding some lines to help keep your work more organized. All right. So now, I say step 1, switch x and y, but I recommend first step is changing h of x to y. So you have y equals 2x minus 9. Okay. Now we get into really step 1, switch x and y. So switch x and y. So now it's x equals 2 minus 9, or x equals 2y minus 9. Now we solve for y. So the first step to solve for y in example 1 is we add 9 to both sides. This becomes 0, so now we're left with x plus 9 equals 2y. And then the last step, we're going to divide everything by 2. Before I do that, I'm always going to put a 1 in front of the x. So now let's divide everything by 2. All right. Well, 2 divided by 2 becomes 1. We've ran out of room, so I'm going to move the work up to here. And I'm going to rewrite the y on the left. So y equals 1/2 x plus 9 over 2. And I think I'm going to go back through here, and I think when I work them, I'm going to use this black like pen or whatever you want to call it, so that you can see you don't get the pencil lines confused with the actual division symbols. So let me just go ahead and fix this one. So it's like that's divide, that's divide, that's divide. And so like here you can see that that's y equals 1. This is why I think I'm going to start using the black pen so you can see the division symbol right there. All right, so now let's take a look at, let's box this in. All right, so now let's look at example 2. Find the inverse of the linear function. So first thing first, I'm going to change h of x to y. So y equals 1/2 x plus 9 divided by 2. All right, now the first step, switch x and y. And we probably need to add another line of work here. All right, now the first step is we're going to subtract 9 divided by 2 from both sides. Okay, and then we ran out of space, so I'm going to bring the work to here. Now this becomes 0, and then we're left with x minus 9 divided by 2 equals 1/2 y. All right, now to get rid of the fraction, we're going to multiply everything by 2. So that becomes 2 times x is 2x. That becomes 2 times negative 9 over 2 is negative 18 divided by 2 equals 2 times 1/2 is 2 divided by 2y. All right, now I'm actually going to put the right on the left. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, so you're left with y equals 2x. Negative 18 divided by 2 is negative 9. All right, let's take a look at example 3. All right, find the inverse of the quadratic function. So the first thing first, I'm going to change h of x to y. So y equals, let's use x plus 5 squared. Okay, switch the x and y. Okay, so now this is where I'm going to have to I'm not going to write it on the work, but I'm going to show you what's happening. In order to, our next step is going to take the square root of both sides. And I'm going to explain why here. Okay, the reason why we take the square root of both sides, for one, we can do whatever we want as long as we do it to both sides. But this is what's happening. So technically, when you have square root, this is a 2, and the y plus 5 is a 1. If we square this, okay, this can be rewritten, okay, as y plus 5 to the 1/2 power. Okay, so, but we're squaring it, so now we square that, and this is what happens. When you have this, you multiply exponents. So 1/2 times 2 is 1, so you're left with y plus 5 to the first power, which in essence is y plus 5. Okay, so by doing that, we now have the square root of x equals y plus 5. We subtract 5 from both sides. I'm going to rewrite it with the y on the left, so y equals the square root of x minus 5. Notice the minus 5 is not underneath the square root. All right, so now let's take a look at example 4. All right, so first thing first, we're going to change f of x to y. So y equals the square root of x minus 5. Okay, we're going to switch the x and y. So x equals the square root of y minus 5. We're going to add 5 to both sides. So we get x plus 5 equals the square root of y. Now, here we square rooted both sides, but now to get rid of the square root, we're going to square both sides. Okay, and let me show you what happens when you do that. So here we have the square root, and I can actually put it 2 here. So square root of y, and that's actually to the first power squared. Well, that can be written as y to the 1/2 power squared. Well, 1/2 times 2 is 1, so you get y to the first power, which is y. All right, so we're left with y equals x plus 5 squared. All right, let's look at the next example. All right, find the inverse of the cubic function. So first thing first, change h of x to y. So y equals x, you don't need the parentheses here, x cubed minus 2. We're going to switch the x and y, so x equals y cubed minus 2. We're going to add 2 to both sides, so you get x plus 2 equals y cubed. Now I did this on purpose because the cubic works just like this, the quadratic, okay? What we're going to do is, like before we did square root of both sides, but now we're going to do the cube root of both sides. Okay? And again, the logic here, this is how the math works. Okay? If we have the cube root of y cubed, this becomes basically to the power of 1, and you're left with y. Okay, just like basically what happened here. Okay, it's the same logic. Okay, so you're left with y equals the cube root of x plus 2. All right, example 5. So again, you change f of x to y, so y equals cube root of x plus 2. Okay, switch the x and y, so x equals the cube root of y plus 2. Now, you do here you took the cube root of both sides, here you're going to cube both sides. So then you get x cubed. This becomes the power of 1, y plus 2. Subtract 2 from both sides. And you have y equals x cubed minus 2. All right. Now, if you have some trouble with that, just understand that. Remember, we're going to have 3 groups in class. One where we're going to be I'm going to be teaching this again in traditional format. You can work with a partner, or you can just be watching the video in class. Okay. So with that, almost forgot. This needs to go into these 2 pages. These 2 pages need to go in the journal. Now, if you finish the video in class, what I suggest doing is starting on Wednesday's assignment, okay? Because this assignment is due at the end of class on Wednesday. So I would suggest getting it started on Tuesday and finishing it on Wednesday, okay? So with that, have a wonderful Wildcat